as I would give someone. That being said, those of you might recall from the beginning of my video that there is a big disclaimer, and no, that was not just watch bait. So now let's dive into it, because this dark side is critically important. Ross's transparency is exceptional, and I do think he has made over $10 million in trading profits. Relative to most internet trading educators, Ross has put far more public documentation around his own results than the typical guru. His website explicitly says he continues to make broker statements available for public review, and the verified earnings page references an independent accountant's report. This is especially important after his prior FTC fine for some of his marketing, which from my understanding of the case wasn't really so crazy out of pocket. It wasn't that big of a deal. That said, after a fine like he received, you would have to be out of your mind to totally lie about these statements and publish fraudulent claims when you already have a massive target on your back. So yes, I absolutely think his trading is real. Now, on to the but. The more interesting critique is also the harder one. Ross clearly knows trading. He clearly understands momentum, and he clearly is genuinely placing the trades. He has more real receipts than most of the internet's trading clowns combined. On that basis alone, yes, he is transparent in a way that most trading influencers are not. But here's where the conversation gets much more nuanced and much more important. Ross is live streaming his trading to thousands of traders in his chat room daily. On one hand, that looks like transparency. At the same time, though, that also creates a massive conflict of interest in that traders in his community are piggybacking off of his live trades. When you are trading microcap stocks, this can have very real impacts on the price movement. Imagine if every time you bought a stock, people bought 10 times your size after you. It is the same exact price dynamic of a pump and dump scheme. This is exactly what Zach Morris, a famous stock pump and dumper from the COVID era, and others in the past have been prosecuted for. So look, I am not accusing Ross Cameron of any pumping and dumping, but I do think when he enters a trade, he is doing it on its own merits, and all of it is legal. But I also strongly believe he has a massive tailwind when he does so because of his thousands of chat room members, some of whom piggyback him into the trade. This is especially problematic when these small cap momentum markets are really hot. In hot markets, participants are eager to chase into small cap momentum names, and coupled with very thin floats, some of these names can go hundreds or even thousands of percents higher. It can make a huge difference because even traders not following Ross will pile in on high volume breakouts. So essentially, Ross has the ability to light the spark, his chat room provides the gasoline for the move, then in times of hot markets, the rest of the world is the rocket fuel. And that is the heart of my issue. My issue is not whether Ross places the trades or whether he knows how to trade or whether he is more transparent than the average guru. He clearly is. My issue is that once you combine a legitimate momentum trader with a giant live audience in a niche that is already reflexive, thin, and crowded, especially one that is often entering these trades pre-market when they are most easily influenced, you create a structural advantage that public broker statements do not fully explain. That advantage is not illegal. It may not be explicit manipulation. It honestly isn't even his fault that he developed such a big following. And if that has always been your product offering, should he really have to cut off the live trading? It is a judgment call that I would imagine very few people would say no to. In my opinion, though, it absolutely does muddy the waters when you try to evaluate how much of his P&L comes from pure standalone trading skill versus how much comes from being the person who buys first while thousands of people are watching the tape and scrambling to join him after. For many of the larger live trading influencers, you end up with a following of traders that look to piggyback you, but they get worse entries and exits. Rather than learning properly, they are trying to make a quick buck by the piggybacking. I'm sure this isn't most of his audience, but I'd also bet anything that is definitely some of them. And for that exact reason, I do not find this piggybacking ethical, and I never share any of my own trading that could influence the position. Once you are the frontman of a giant real-time microcap chat room, you have to at least ask the adult question. In a stock with low float and extreme intraday momentum, what is the value of being first, being visible, and being copied? My answer is a lot, potentially a whole lot. Maybe not every day, maybe not in every trade, but enough that I would never be comfortable judging the raw trading record as if it were generated in a vacuum. Even if you are not intentionally trying to exploit that, even if you're just trading your system honestly, the structure itself creates a massive cushion in your trading. The audience knows what you're watching. They know your style. They know your preferred setups. They see your fills in real time. In hot small cap conditions, that is not a trivial detail. That is an inherent part of the market microstructure. And before somebody says, well, that's just the cost of teaching live, I get that argument. There is some truth there. And again, I'm not saying I even fault Ross for this. But if you build a business around live trading small caps in front of thousands of traders, then the fair critique is that your educational model and your trading results are not cleanly separable. They bleed into each other. The room helps sell the education, and the education audience may also help the room leader in ways that are difficult to measure. And that's the piece I think that gets glossed over when people say,
well, Ross posts a statement, so case closed.
No, case not closed. The statements close one debate and open another. They go a long way towards showing the trades are real. That matters. I give them full credit for that. Most gurus will not get that far. But it does not answer the more interesting question, which is whether those returns would look the same if Ross were quietly trading the same strategies with no camera, no chat room, no alert system, and no audience piling into the same names after him. And I want to stay very disciplined here because this is where reaction videos can get sloppy. It's easy to slide from a fair critique into making accusations that I cannot prove. I cannot, nor can anyone, easily prove what percentage of his profits come from his audience chasing it after him. That being said, it is my personal belief that the tailwind is very much significant to his P&L. I would not be surprised if the tailwind is responsible for a majority of his trading profits. I spoke about Ross's trading performance and this issue with 4 unrelated senior traders in the chat room space, each with over a decade of trading experience and each running their own trading communities. And they have been a part of Ross Cameron's trading community at points in their career. Every single one of them said they believe that the majority of Ross Cameron's profits come from his followers piggybacking his trades. 2 of the 4 traders I spoke with went as far as saying they confidently believe Ross would not be profitable were it not for his chat room tailwind. Wow, that is a big statement. So where do I land? I land somewhere in the middle. Ross is absolutely not in the same bucket as the worst trading frauds. He absolutely is a real trader with a decade of real experience. His understanding of the microcap space, reading the tape, and his own trading habits are clearly real, and his transparency on providing statements deserves recognition. At the same time, I think it's totally fair to question the purity of the record and put a disclaimer on his profits in this specific case. The same way that Mark McGwire and Barry Bonds had the steroids asterisk. In plain English, Ross may be a very good trader, but also maybe not, since he is not trading under laboratory conditions. I totally think his following has a lot to learn from him, especially if you are a beginner. His content's great, but as a consumer, you need to question how transferable that edge is to you as the audience, and also how transferable that edge is outside of the market of microcaps. And maybe the biggest lesson for beginner traders is this: even when someone is legitimate, that does not automatically mean their edge is cleanly replicable by you. Yes, you can still learn from them, and I do genuinely love his content. It does provide real learning lessons, it was entertaining, and had awesome pacing. At the end of the day, the trading influencer industry is always buyer beware. There are minimal rules or regulations, so you as a consumer need to do your due diligence and find the teacher that is right for you. If you found value in this reaction piece, hit that subscribe button and let me know who you want me to analyze next.